Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Still Roses podcast. You are hearing Jenny. This podcast was created for women by women. I am very excited this morning to have a very special guest with me. Miss Sasha B is on the line with me. Sasha, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Jenny. Thank you.
So I want to just give like a little bit of history to the listeners. So everyone who's been following, everyone who's been listening and following us weekly, they've heard me talk about it a couple of times that I took this course over the summer called Abundance Ever After with Kathy Heller. And from that course, I met all these phenomenal people, and Sasha was one of them. Now, we didn't have the opportunity to meet during the course because it was like Kathy always said, it's like drinking from a fire hose. Like it was so much. Yes. I barely got a drop in. But from that course, it was like maybe the week after it ended, I had this kind of light bulb moment of like, oh my gosh, let me go back in and see if the group is still active. And like, can I grab anybody and say like, hey, like, let's connect and let's like work together. And Sasha was one of the people that I was able to connect with afterwards. So that's sort of how we were able to pull together and collaborate. So Sasha has a truly inspiring story, and I don't think she realizes it.
I'm so humbled when people say this. Is it really? It's just normal, I guess.
What you've overcome, it literally brings tears to my eyes. If I sound a little shaky while I talk about it, that's why. But Sasha, I want you to share your story, and then I also want you to talk a little bit about the upcoming launch for you as well. So Sasha is actually also a podcaster, and she has a podcast launching on Wednesday. I want to say, is it the 4th, October 4th?
The 4th.
October 4th. I want to drop that date in there in case, like, because this episode will air after the 4th. So Wednesday, October 4th, her podcast launches. I'm so excited and so happy for her. I am actually very excited to listen. So, Sasha, why don't you let the listeners know a little bit about you, how you started this journey, and then what your topic is for your podcast, I think is going to be important, and just, all the good things.
All the good things. Oh my gosh. So firstly, Jenny, I just want to express some gratitude for having me here, for me to be able to tell my story and in some way, somehow inspire, if it's even one listener, just to be encouraged, just to be motivated, to be inspired in some small way. So thank you for welcoming me in this amazing way that you do. So, oh my gosh, my story, where do I start? It's so funny because to me, this is all I know, right? This is my reality. This is my experience of the journey that we call life. And the place where I am so filled with such love, such positivity, such gratitude to be here, not just physically here, but emotionally here, spiritually here, mentally here, financially here. I have endured some things that I probably wouldn't have preferred in my life. And some of those things really, really had a profound mark on the trajectory of my journey. And the reason why I'm able to wake up in the morning and do what I do is because I've really, really seen lows in my life. And they were not fun. But as the universe tells you, the law of polarity says, the law of polarity dictates that where you find the lows, you equally find the highs. And I'm so grateful that in my life now, I'm able to hold on to that. So I guess this story started, to give you some context, I am from a Jamaican family and I'm currently living in the UK, in London. And as long as I remember, Christianity was ingrained in our culture. It was our religion. It's just the way we live. It was just everything we knew. And so I would grow up going to church, going to Sunday school. I went to school, which was a Christian school. And I didn't know it as anything foreign. It was just how we were. We would go to church. We would pray over our food. We would, come together in good times, bad times, religion was part of my life. And I'm actually really grateful because it gave me, for my opinion, it gave me a good foundation of knowing that there is something bigger than what we will visually see. There is a universal force. Now, I refer to that force as God. Somebody else may refer to that force as Allah. Somebody else may be Mother Earth, infinite, intelligent, whatever the word is, the understanding that there is something bigger than us. And so that idea was always ingrained in me. And then as time went on and I grew up, I was really tested. My faith was really, really tested. And probably the biggest thing that tested my faith was when I had my firstborn daughter. I had, during my pregnancy, I had something called preeclampsia. Now, I was completely, I had no idea what this was, but actually it propelled me to have to become a mother literally overnight when she was 28 weeks, 5 days, very premature.
Oh, wow.
So she was born, thankfully, very, very healthy. She was absolutely fine. But the problem was with me, and my blood pressure was so high that they thought that I wasn't going to make it overnight.
Oh my
And I did, of
gosh.
course. Yeah, of course I did. But really, really tragically, she caught something because she was having to be in the neonatal unit. She caught something which was contagious. She caught it from another baby in the hospital where it was something called NEC. Now, I think it stands for necrotizing enteritis, something like that. But it was a life-threatening condition, and so she needed surgery within hours on her bowels. And to give you the very short edited version, she passed away a week before my 24th birthday. Now, as I'm sure you can imagine, that was life-changing. I went from everything being normal to everything not being normal and being completely thrown into profound sadness, profound grief, profound questions. Why me? Why her? I had so many plans. And overnight they changed. And so I really had to lean in and grasp on this element of faith that I grew up with, and that kind of led me to kind of, there was nothing else. I had nothing else. And so the only thing I could lean on was my faith. And there must be a reason. There has to be a point to this story. And thank you to God that I was able to bring forth 2 more children. And everything went well. Everything went well. But then, as I'm sure you can imagine, because of my story, I kind of developed postnatal depression, or you might even rephrase that by saying PTSD,
Postpartum depression. Yeah.
And again, getting to the place where I felt guilt that I know what the depth of sadness is, but actually I've now brought forward 2 children. And so why am I feeling like I can't cope? Like am I being ungrateful? Am I being like, why am I feeling like it's not enough, or I'm not connecting to the role of motherhood like I always imagined? And again, there was nothing else to lean on. My family were there. My friends were there. They were incredible, but there was such emptiness. And so I had nothing else to lean on but this faith. And I as time went on, I healed and I found joy again and I found happiness again. And then came October 2011. So my son was 3 months old and my daughter was a year and a half. And I laugh now because it sounds so much more dramatic than it probably was. But it was an impact. And I was in a hit and run accident whereby I had to learn to walk again. Again, physically, there was just nothing there. I couldn't help myself. I couldn't help my children. And I was in the place where it was like, you have to lean on me because there is nothing else. There's nowhere else to go. You have to go inwards. And that was just the pattern of my life, like continually being slapped in the face with the life events and being kind of in some way told, just dig in, just go in, find peace find healing inwards. And then, I physically healed. And this is the time where I became a teacher, to put it into context. I went back to study, became a teacher. and then felt such privilege, such honor, such pride to be able to stand in front of the young people who I serve today and have an impact in some way. Now, I'm just a normal girl, just a normal girl. I struggle with kind of normal things. We didn't grow up with money. We didn't grow up with much really other than ourselves. And this is why community and family and union is so important to me, because you can be rich and not have that and feel so poor, but equally you can have nothing tangible, but you have the love and you know the love of your family and your community, your friends, and feel so abundant. And so to bring it into a little bit more recent times, I was struggling in school. So just to give you context, I'm a teacher. I teach high school, secondary school. So I teach from 11 years old to 18, 19-year-olds. And as I'm sure you can imagine, teaching students specifically in that age group can really be challenging at times. Very rewarding, but very, very challenging. And the school environment, parents, leadership, the governors, the government, the other peers, your managers, there's just so much admin tasks. There's just so much to do other than teaching. So I think the statistics is it's 25% of what a teacher does is teach. So that's the majority of things that a teacher does is just not teaching. So as much as I loved teaching, I was burdened down by the other things, the other things that we have to do that nobody talks about.
Yeah, I actually didn't even.
Oh my gosh!
I didn't even. My cousin's a teacher, and I didn't even realize. I mean, I know that there's some stuff but I don't actually know the ins and outs. I would have never. I would have never thought of that.
Yeah, you wouldn't know. And so let's break that down. I'm a teacher, and I used to work 5 days a week. So I would leave my house 7 o'clock in the morning. And bear in mind, I now have 3 children. So I had 3 children. I would leave my house 7 o'clock in the morning, get to work at around 7:45. From the minute I start my day, I'm replying to emails. I'm marking papers. I'm responding. I may be attending meetings. I'm doing admin tasks such as data analysis and inputting data for this particular person or that particular person. We might have tours of potential students and parents. I might even have to be mentoring somebody at school, or I might have to go and meet my manager. Now, even in the situations where everything's positive, that's a lot to do.
It's a lot.
Other than standing in front of these young people who may have their own baggage, and you have to be present, emotionally present for them. But then let's imagine we might have a manager or somebody in the leadership team who's giving us stress, who's telling you you're not good enough, who's potentially piling on additional things where you may not feel comfortable to say, I don't want to do that, or I don't have the capacity to take on those things.
Let's take a quick break.
Are you interested in podcasting but not sure where to start? My name is Jenny Benitez, and I'm here to help guide you through your podcast launch and maintenance. Check out the link in the episode description for Podcasting Unboxed, your comprehensive startup guide. I am very excited to work with you.
And I remember in a previous school, I would leave after about 6:30. I was the only parent in my department, and there was about 7 of us. And I would leave work at 6:30 in the evening, and I would have comments. They would say comments such as, "Oh my gosh, you're leaving already? Part-timer? Gosh, I would love to have a life like yours." And it would be, I was not in the place now. Yeah, wow. The mum shame. But even not mum shame, my gosh, I've been at this place since 8 o'clock in the morning, and I want to leave at 6 p.m. and I'm told I'm a part-timer, or I'm told why am I leaving so early?
Wow.
So and that's just my experience. That some people may not have had experiences like that, but some people may be enduring like verbal abuse from parents, verbal abuse from students. Let's take a moment to talk about that, because we are working with teenagers and not all of them are going to be in a preferred behavior. And so
I've actually had my kids' teachers, I always in the very beginning of the school year make sure they know that I respect and I'm open to their opinion and I want to hear from them. And because I'm like, and because I almost always tell all of them, because my kids, I have 3 kids and I have twin girls and a little boy. They're all in different classrooms. So when I do parent teacher night, I go to each teacher and I always tell them, I'm like, you're spending far more time with my child during the week than I am. So,
oh my gosh, I love that.
I'm like, you tell me, what are you seeing? Like, if you see something, tell me, because I'm only hustling them through their nighttime activities during Monday through Friday.
Essentially,
so like basically, I'm like, and I always go to them, I'm like, tell me what you think. And I can tell by the way they approach me, until they really get to know me, I can tell by the way they approach me that there's been situations where parents probably screamed at them, and they'll tell me like, oh, very gently, like, we did test the kids and we do recommend they need extra basic skills help. And I'm like, awesome, let's do it. And they're like, I can almost sense the relief when I'm like, let's go.
Yeah. It's the reality. And gosh, if we're all honest, so we're parents here, some of us, and we are leaders in some way, or we are responsible for something or someone in some way. A lot of us potentially might go to the defense aspect first. Am I not? Is that your way of saying I'm not doing something good? I'm a rubbish mother. Right. My child isn't meeting the standards, and it's we respond in the reactive way first, as though it's a criticism. Now, I'm not going to say every single teacher is not coming from that space. I couldn't possibly say that. But equally, I don't go into my job to cause harm or to cause, anything negative. My literal aim as a teacher is I've got 2. One, to give them education in some way and allow them to leave my classroom with something that they didn't have. So, and for them to attain a qualification, because that's the premise of school. One of the premises of school is so that you get a qualification. But the other part of me that's really, really important, that I find really, really important and is not advocated for enough, in my very humble opinion, is I want to allow space for your children to grow in a space where it's not educational. So I want them to feel comfortable to be able to express. Are they feeling happy? Are they feeling acknowledged? Is there any problems that I can perhaps support you with? First hand, second hand, I can maybe refer you to somebody. Are you having friendship issues? And then there's even things such as, I've been feeling, let me give you another example. One of my students said, am I allowed to? Okay, I'm just going to be transparent. You can edit it out if you want to.
Oh,
Girl,
go ahead.
And she's 15, and she came up to me at the end of my lesson and she said, Miss, I've really been worrying about this and I'm really, really stressed. Can I talk to you about something? I said, of course. What's the problem? She said, Miss, I've been growing hair in places that there wasn't hair before.
Poor thing.
And I'm so scared to tell my mum, because what if there's something wrong?
Oh my gosh.
That is just, so this poor child has been worrying that she's growing hair. I am assuming pubic hair or hair on, and there's something wrong. And she's been suffering because she said there's no one she can talk to because she's scared that they're going to judge her or there's going to be a problem.
Wow.
So let's imagine I didn't allow space for that, or I didn't have the capacity to allow space. So this conversation happened at the end of the lesson before lunchtime. So the fact was I was eating into my lunchtime. But for that few minutes that I sacrificed my lunchtime, this young girl was now able to think, okay, I'm okay. Not dying. I'm okay. This is normal. And maybe it's a stepping stone for her to talk to her parents about what's going on and to maybe open up a conversation about something she's been really worried about. It's so important.
I have to say this. The fact that this happened and she felt comfortable even coming to you, like your vibe, like what you're bringing to your classroom, definitely is opening up like a I'm here for you, because
Mm-hmm.
I have loads of respect for teachers, because my children drive me insane and I birthed them. So like the fact that like, and you're handling other people's kids, and just like what you said, like every single one of them has a personality. It's just like your workspace,
Mm-hmm.
and even like
Mm-hmm.
professional, like, corporate culture, whatever. These are like your work people. Like these are your colleagues basically. And if they show up
Yeah,
and they're
yeah,
pissed off
yeah,
or they're having a bad day, or like what you said, this young girl didn't know and didn't understand that she was going through puberty, like that impacts them. And then it's like,
yeah,
well, I'm sure as a teacher, and you're up there teaching, and then you see kids distracted and not paying attention, and it's like frustrating, but at the same time, there's an element of like emotional intelligence, basically. Like, you know what? I'm
yes.
sensing you're a little bit off. If you want to
Oh
come and
my
talk to me,
gosh.
I do that with my kids quite a bit, where like I give them the space to
Mm-hmm.
like process and then come to me, and I'll say like, "Oh, you
Mm-hmm.
look a little like, you know, is everything okay? Did you have a good day today?" And they'll tell me like, I had a tough day." They're like 6, the twins are 6 and my son is
Mm.
7. But they'll tell me, like, we've been teaching them
Mm.
since they were like 3. And so they'll tell me like, I had a tough day today. And I'm like, "Okay." And they'll, since they're 6, it'll come out like a whole like 20-minute discussion. Like they'll tell me
I've got a
20 minutes of things,
6-year-old.
and I'll,
I know.
yeah, and then I have to be like, "So you had a problem on the bus?" Like I have to get really clear. That's
I
amazing with
love that.
Sasha.
It's
That's
so
the
funny.
yeah, oh yeah, translating. It's amazing that young girl felt compelled, like comfortable to talk to you. And the other bit of that too, and I don't think I've talked about it on a prior episode yet, but like, the education, and I could talk about this for days too, but the education for young ladies and like what's happening is so sad, because it's so sparse. And
Yeah.
then we have situations like that where they
Mm-hmm.
don't
Mm-hmm.
know what's going on. Um, so you told I'm glad you said what you said, and thank you so much for sharing, like about the loss of your daughter and the accident. And it's just, I know you saw me and I had to like take a minute because I was getting a little overwhelmed myself hearing your story. Um, but it's so amazing, because you have these points in your life where you could have gone a total opposite direction. You could have shut down. And that's why I say that it's inspiring. Like right before we hopped on, everybody, I was telling Sasha, I was like, your story is truly amazing. And she was like, well, it's just, it's just my story. And I'm like, no, no, no. Like,
For me, yeah.
what
I
you've
mean,
done,
look.
and then to be sitting here and to have the perspective that you have, that's no easy feat. And I just want to commend you on that, because it's also informed like how you're showing up for
Yeah.
people and how you're showing up for your students.
So I'm so grateful for that. That really does touch me. Really does mean a lot to me. And the fact is, it's not been amazing, right? And in some way, somehow, you all can relate to that. Every single person on this episode will be able to relate in some way. Maybe not exactly how I did, in what I experienced. And for them, it might be little small t trauma. For somebody else, it's large capital T trauma. But you've gone through something in some way that's had an impact in your life. Now, how this kind of led me to where I am now is, so yeah, to backtrack a little bit, I was really struggling at work. I really was really struggling. As I said, leaving the home at 7 o'clock, coming home at 6 o'clock in the 7 o'clock in the evening. Then that's when I put my mum hat on. So I've got 3 children now. My daughter is 13. She's 13. Oh my God, I have to calculate every time. So she's 13. I've got a 12-year-old son. And my 12-year-old son has autism, so I'm a special needs mom. And then my youngest son is 6 years old. So as I'm sure you can imagine, my hands are full. I'm very busy. So I wouldn't stop my day until perhaps 8:30. It's a long
Mm-hmm.
day. It's a long day. And throughout all of the day, it's me giving my energy, giving my attention, giving my brain capacity. And it got to a point where I was like, I cannot continue this. This is not enjoyable for me. I'm just not happy. And that was just to even get to that point, I'm grateful for, because in some way I felt as though I had a role of authority and I couldn't accept that I was struggling. And that was all me. That was all my ego. That was all pride. And if I asked for help, it would mean that I am less than. It would mean that someone might deem that I'm not capable anymore. And that was, I want to firstly say that was a load of rubbish. That just, I was playing a hero or attempting to play a hero where nobody wins, because I wasn't a very nice mother, because I was tired and I was grumpy and I just didn't have the energy to do the fun things that I'm really obligated to do with them. I also felt guilt because I was giving my attention to, well, if there's 30 children in a class and I'm teaching maybe 5 or 6 lessons in a day, you can imagine I'm giving all of that energy, time and love to other people's children. And I just didn't have the energy to give that to myself. So that I was really guilty about that. I felt as though my lessons were not as engaging and wasn't fun. I resented doing admin. I resented, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't want, and it just became too much. And I was just like, look, something has to give. And I was processing that for a good, maybe months, man. If I'm being honest, I was going through this for months. And what tipped the hat is that because of my PTSD, so I forgot to mention this bit, I developed, because of my PTSD with the crash, the hit and run that I was in, I had such a problem with being in a car. Now, the person who hit me, it was a motorcyclist who hit me with the hit and run. But somehow the brain is a magical thing, and it caused me to have real deep anxiety about being in a car, whether that was being driven, whether that was being a passenger in like an Uber or something. I'd really struggled to be in a car, and I would often have like mini panic attacks on the way to work. And the only reason why I kept on going is because if I can just drive for 5 more minutes, there was no space for me to pull over. That was the honest reason why I didn't pull over on the road. And then I knew even if I pulled over, I would still have to drive the car somewhere. Yeah, so the breaking point was I went into my head teacher and I said, look, I'm leaving this job today. This is it. I'm finished, because I can't do this. I'm not enjoying this life right now. And I manifested this. Whether I want to admit this, whether it was active or not, I manifested this reality. And so in the same way how I manifested this reality, I have to take responsibility to manifest something that I am finding joy in, that I am finding peace in, that I am able to feel abundant in my life again. I knew the deep downs feelings, but I also knew that it was possible to feel good, because I did feel good at times since then. I have experienced real happiness, real joy. And so I need to take control of my life. So I went into the head teacher's office and I said, I'm leaving. I don't want to leave. This is not what I really, really love my students. I'm obsessed with my job. I really feel privileged and honored to be a teacher in this school and serve these students. But I can't. I'm leaving. So dramatic, so dramatic. And so I went in, and he was just like, "Okay, so let's not do that. Let's take a minute." And so, I don't know why I'm laughing about this. This is so funny. Anyway, so we had that conversation, and I left out, and the plan was, why don't you go part-time in the next academic year? And by going part-time, it would mean you wouldn't have to do the journey as much. And it would mean that you had the space, mental space, to not feel so overwhelmed, because you didn't necessarily have to do everything all the days. And so, of course, that was what I did. And I was really pleased. I was pleased that I kind of said, right, I'm taking control of my life. I was pleased that I gave myself permission to say, I don't need verification from anything. I'm going. I was so proud of myself that I work. Well, one of the reasons why we work is because we need money, right? So that's, we have to financially inject money into our life so we can pay for bills and my children, blah, blah, blah. And I was so proud of myself that I put that second, because what I was doing is putting money over my sanctuary, over my mind, over my sanity, over my life's joy, purpose. And so I left that meeting feeling like there's at least some hope. And that was the fuel to allow me to meditate every morning. Because as I said, I took that moment was basically a transformation for me. Yes, I was now going into living part-time and working part-time, but it was a way that I said to myself, you have the responsibility to change your reality. You can't lean on your head teacher to give you permission. Because what happens if he had said, no, you have to work 5 days? Would I have continued working 5 days? Right? I have to change the fact that I'm not happy with how I'm parenting these children, because I'm just not giving them what they deserve, what I signed up for, because I'm fueling everywhere else.
How could you too? Yeah, and how could you too? Because, and I actually jotted a note to myself like while you were talking, because you were at that point giving 150% of all of you out. So by the time you got to like the evening, your cup was like basically empty, and then you still had to care for your children. So I as a working mom, I feel that every day now.
Yeah. And what my weekends were just, I didn't do anything on the weekends because I just didn't have to me, it was just preparing to be able to have energy for the next week. Yeah. And so I took such control. I was so grateful that I was brave enough to do that. And that's what led me to meditating every morning. And what I would do previously, I'd wake up in the morning, the alarm goes off, I'd turn the TV on, put the news on, and I would take my phone up and I would check emails, or I'd have a scroll on Instagram or whatever. Wrong, naughty, that's so bad. That's what you're doing is you turn the TV on, and instantly into your psyche, into your subconscious mind goes the fact that there's killings 3 roads away from you. We don't have money. The country doesn't, we're going to go into recession. We don't have this. This is going to go, there's this natural disaster, and and it was just, so at this time there was teacher strikes, and there was nurses strikes, and there was so much negativity. And then what they would even do on the news is they'll play, so the government doesn't want to pay teachers anymore. And no, the government doesn't want to pay nurses anymore. And there you are as a teacher trying to get more money. So you as a teacher, what you're saying is you don't value the nurses enough, and trying to play us against each other. Negativity the moment you open your eyes. And so then after I'd put the news on, I would go and look at my emails and be reminded of all the heavy burden load that I haven't done yet. And it's just copy and paste day after day after day. What I can expect today, the exact same thing I had yesterday, and the exact same thing I can imagine is going to happen tomorrow. And by me meditating that 15, 10, maybe 10 minutes, 8 minutes on days, I was reminded, stop. This is a brand new day. How grateful are you that you are able to open your eyes and you're able to enjoy a deep breath? It sounds ridiculous, but take a moment to me, it doesn't, because I just went realize, through it. But God, I didn't realize. Like, what? Yeah, right. I didn't. I didn't realize, and I'm meditating every day, and it was the medicine I didn't know I needed. It was the simplest thing for me to meditate, and I was able to find joy in my day. If it's in only one thing, and at first that one thing was, I actually sat down and had a lunch break. Yes, girl. You're treated you've won. Bingo. You've sat down and had a 15-minute lunch break. Girl, you're winning.
You know what's funny? It's funny that you say that, because like literally the nights that I'm able to actually sit down and eat, and I don't mean like a huge meal. I mean like the times that I actually physically sit to eat.
Sit down.
I take a deep breath, and I'm like, okay, like you achieved this little goal. And that sounds really crazy as a goal, but ever since my twins were born, I had gotten into this horrible habit of eating while I was cooking, because I had to immediately, when I'm done with cooking, feed the kids, and then I have to move the kid. So there was never a time where I was actually like sitting. Very rare, even to this day, very rare that I actually sit down and eat. So I try. You're right. To me, that's like huge.
And God forbid your meal is hot. I mean, sitting down is one story. Having a hot meal is just, don't even go there. Yeah. That's just a different, what are you trying to do, win the love?
I still haven't. That's still dicey one.
That's still on the to-do. Have a hot meal. That's going to blow your mind.
Hot fresh food that I don't have to reheat.
Hot fresh? What? Oh my gosh.
I haven't gotten it.
Oh my gosh. If you know, you know. So essentially, allowing myself, gifting myself the space to enjoy my lunch break. Or it could be allowing yourself 10 minutes to walk around the block and listen to the birds. That's so. My podcast is called Woo Woo Club, or Woo Woo Teachers Club, and it's so woo woo. But how often are you able to stop and listen to the birds? Because they're there, and I didn't realize. I can see they're there, but they have their own conversation, and I just wasn't in my reality until I made it. I'm going to be present on this walk. I'm going to see, oh my gosh, the leaves, they're on the floor. They're making a crunchy sound. Or put my music in and just have a 10-minute dance party in my head. Nobody needs to know. In fact, I do that to this day. I will put music on in my classroom during a break time or in the morning. Put some music on. Boom, you're in high vibe. 3-4 minutes. And
I do it during the day.
It just wasn't even a thing. It just wasn't a thing. Now, all these different techniques like journaling. Oh my gosh, I use my pen all day. Well, that's a lie. I use my pen majority of the day in my job, but I'm not using my pen for 15 minutes to just empty out the stuff in my brain, in my head, all the things that's burdening me. So it's just going to be a computer with 384 tabs open in my mind, and I'm trying to remember that's ridiculous. You wouldn't expect a computer to run efficiently like that. So why would you expect, right? And so
that's a great analogy, actually. That's a fantastic analogy.
But you get it. The point is, we all can in some way relate. We're just carrying a lot. And when are we going to allow yourself, gift yourself? I keep using the word gift because to me it was like a gift. I didn't have it before, and I allowed myself to receive the gift. And I utilize that every morning. And honestly, 15 minutes the most, I meditate in the morning. Now, if I can give hours and hours and hours and hours of my energy, my attention, my bandwidth to other people, you are obligated to give yourself a short chunk of that. Now, for me, that's 15-20 minutes, 10-15 minutes. And I honestly tell you, that's changed my life. I know I'm woo-woo and I proudly say that, but that 10 minutes has changed my actual life. People are probably sick of me in my school. I don't know. Maybe that's I don't know. But honestly, I wake up in the morning and I'm bouncing around. I'm so joyous. I feel so aligned
it's a totally
to my job.
Different thing.
So somebody might say, yeah, well, that's all great, but you're a teacher. We want results. Tick, got you on that. In the summer, my results, when I say my results, the students' results were the highest they've ever been in my 10-year teaching career. My students' results, so for those of you who are not teachers on here, we have target grades for students, right? So they come in at one point and they are expected to meet a certain academic level and grade by the time that they finish your course. And my results this year, or the results of my students this year, were the highest they've ever been. Every single one of them met their target grade, and the largest proportion of them 2x'd. So they lapped their target grade twice. What are you even talking about? That's because I meditated for 10 minutes in the morning. Are you insane? That blows my mind. I am. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. That's a factual. You can check it out. That's statistics. But moreover, me changing my reality meant that I showed up when I was in my classroom and teaching. I'm teaching from a different place. And my students reacted to that. They reacted not just emotionally, there's something ticked off cognitively where they were able to achieve more than I've ever allowed my students or made my students achieve. 2 of my students who I was really, really close to, they've gone on to university. One's studying midwifery, another one's gone on to become a teacher, another one's gone on to become a pharmacist. And if you think about impact, my small change, the change I've made in my life, in some way impacted them. And in some way now, they've gone on to do amazing careers where they are going to impact thousands of people. I'm not saying that's because of me, but that's one amazing tiny thing that is just like, whoa, the impact of me changing my life has now, there's scatters of them, rainbow dust of them, of that impact, going way further than I could have ever imagined. how could I not be grateful? How could I not
Mm-hmm.
want to go? And I haven't actively manifested, or maybe I haven't actively manifested this reality, but this is far bigger than what I could have ever imagined. I am privileged and honored to stand up every day. That's a lie. Stand up 3 times a week in front of these students in the way that I do, and in some way have an impact on them. That to me is, I'm so blessed, and I'm so grateful that I'm in the place now where I'm able to give to them in whatever way they need it. I love this. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I'm so grateful.
It literally like comes through even on the video. Like I can just like it like is like and well, and I want to point that out because like when we were going through, so I also actually I will share this over the past like week and a half, 2 weeks or so. I haven't been meditating every day, and I recognize this. I was doing some self-reflection because I was meditating every single day. Like I started over the summer when we started AEA, and that was like the biggest learning I had, and my whole person, everything changed. And I was actually having my family say to me like, wow, like you're glowing. Like there's something's going on. Like you look amazing. Like we had this family event, and it was after I had started meditating a lot, and they were like, oh my gosh, like you're my kids are waking up. They were like, your whole persona. Gabita has it. They were like, your whole persona is changing. Like this is so beautiful. It's so amazing. And it was truly because I was taking that time to like reinvest in myself. And so the past like couple of weeks, I had stopped meditating, and I was like sleeping in the mornings. And yesterday morning, I recognized it as more of a self-sabotage because I am doing something that's scaring me. I'm developing I'm actually developing a learning course, like a virtual learning course.
Incredible.
And
incredible.
It's scaring me because I'm about to put myself out there in a big way, and it's freaking me out. And is in, human nature, I'm like, oh, well, let me pull myself out of the flow, and it's one of those things. So now I'm back on it. I'm like, no, like stop, like enough. But I wanted to reinforce a couple things that you said, because we have this like culture now of like hustle and, going crazy, working all the time. And, you need to be like double timing it and, just going above and beyond or overboard basically. And it's becoming like a badge of honor again to like overwork yourself. And there's so much more to taking a minute and giving yourself space to just breathe and be in the moment. And you said that a few times because like a lot of us are never in the moment. There's millions of people in the world that are never physically in the moment, and they're always thinking about something else that happened or something they have to do. And it slowly drains, I'm going to call it your cup, but it slowly drains your cup. And then you can't show back up. And look at the great turnaround. Like, and I do want to say, like, so the Woo Teachers Club is what the podcast is going to be called. My children are making their entrance. So the Woo Teachers Club is what your podcast is going to be called. And the basis around this, so now you've heard Sasha's story. The basis for this is that she went through these traumas. We all have traumas. She went through these traumas, these major life moments, and she found a path where just taking those 10 to 15 minutes to meditate and align yourself and to be in the moment has really shifted how you're showing up for your students. Like that's a huge deal. I think that's huge for all teachers. Like, how are you showing up for your students every day?
So do you know what it is? And firstly, I want to just honor you at the fact that you said, you were really vulnerable a while ago. And I really want to honor that you're able to even recognize that, because I'm going to assume that there was a part of you once upon a time where you weren't even able to recognize that. So I really want to honor you for that. And we find, I resonate with this so much, because there's always things that we have to remember. So I'm a mum just like you, but this could be anyone, where you are constantly thinking about what you have to do, your to-do list, and let me talk about me, constantly thinking about my to-do list, I'm not writing it anywhere. So I'm trying to remember the things that I have to do. And then I have to remember that, oh, I've done it, but I've started it, but I haven't quite completed it. And then you become overwhelmed. And then this is when you inject feelings into it, like overwhelmed, annoyed, resentful, tired, exhausted, fatigued. And of course, the natural progression of that would be like, I'm trying to save 15 minutes in the morning.
Yeah.
And so I'm just not going to meditate, because in that 15 minutes, I could literally be replying to the emails, or I could literally be ordering the kids' PE kit, or whatever the thing might be. I remember having, in that morning, sometimes I would do shopping, online shopping for the family in that morning, right? So I had constantly things that I could afford to use that time to do. And once upon a time, I might have said, that's a waste of time, that 15 minutes. I could do something more productive in that time. Wrong. That's the time when you need it most. You have to, whenever the times are in your life when you're feeling really overwhelmed, and logistically time was my problem, 15 minutes could have changed how you view the rest of those things, right? In that 15 minutes, you could have just literally put pen to paper and done some morning pages. Morning pages being, I'm just going to brain dump everything that's in my mind right now. It doesn't even have to make sense. Just get it out from your mind computer onto paper. Medicine. It's like therapy. And the times when you need it most is when you are feeling that overwhelm. The times when you need to go inwards and go inside and connect to the river that's flowing in. The flow is when you are needing it most, when you're stressed, when you're overwhelmed. The world, as we say, as we know it now, it doesn't advocate for that. In my reality, that I didn't feel like I could relate to anybody who's telling me these things. And this is why my podcast comes about, because I want to talk to the teachers who are stressed, who are burnt out, who are tired, who are not enjoying it anymore. And I want to say to you, look, there's another way. We can be a fantastic teacher where we just take a little bit of time out. We can use meditation. Meditation was my medicine, but for somebody else, it could just be going for a walk in nature, no phones, no distractions, just going for a walk in the morning for 15 minutes. It could also be, for somebody else, it could be having a dance party, putting on some music and some high vibe music, or blasting. Or equally, it could just be putting on some meaningful music. Has anyone heard of, what's her name? India Irie, what's the song?
Oh, I Am Light.
I Am. Oh my God. India Irie, I Am Light. Put that on. Gosh. You will become a sobbing child, because it's talking to your soul. You're finished. It's talking to your soul.
Oh my God. The first time that we heard that in the chorus, I was,
my God.
Just, I think I had said this in one of the group chats. I was like, does anyone else burst out into tears when they're meditating? Is that just me? And everybody was like, no, we all do it. It's interesting. I'm like, no, we all do that. But when we heard that song, I play that song now when I'm like, I've lived by the beach. And when I like go to meditate, like my meditation spot is at the beach. And I would play that as my like, to get into it, to get into like the vibe and the flow. And it's so moving. It's such a strong recommend. Thank you for bringing that up. Strong recommend.
Strong.
So you've utilized meditation, like you were able to make that shift from full-time to part-time, because what you did, because I want to point this out too, you recognized the overextension. So that's another area where I think, not like in general, but also as women, it's hard for us to say, you know what, I can't do a million things at once. I need to scale it back. Like me personally, that was one of the biggest challenges that I had. Almost my entire life, is that I'm always keen on saying I can do it all. Like my husband makes fun of me. Like he's like,
because we're trying to be a hero, right? We're trying to be a hero.
Like he's like, you're trying to take over everything. I'm like, and for a really long time, my ego would be like, I can do it all. I can do everything. I don't need any help. And I know that comes from trauma. Like, and in the work that we did through AEA and in my own research, I know that when you have a response where you're like, I can do it all myself, that's a trauma response.
I don't need anybody else.
Right. I don't need
yes.
anyone. I can do it myself. It's a response to trauma because you've been in situations so often where you had to just stand up for yourself. You had to do your own thing
Absolutely.
and nobody helped you. So now you're not willing to admit, I can't do all these things. And that was the hands down biggest change that I made over the past year, was recognizing like, you can't do all the things because then you're not doing anything. You're also not showing up for yourself. And like at home, like we talk quite a bit about it. And my husband, like, he's a great reminder for me because he always tells me, he's like, you make time for this, this, and this, like, but you don't make
Yes.
time for this, like, and this is really going to help you. And I'm like, oh, you're so right. I'm like, why are you right? Like,
And that's so annoying, right? Because somebody's telling
it's
you,
so
but
annoying.
you just don't want to.
I'm
I
like, what are you
know. I
saying?
just
No,
don't
but
want to admit
you
that right
really,
now. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
put the time back into yourself because you were overworked. You were totally just like shot, and like, you're not going to be effective at anything. How
Oh
can
my
you
gosh.
really
Yeah.
be effective for your students, and your kids, your family, your husband, your partner, whatever it is? You can't be there a positive force for anybody when you're drinking from an empty cup. You have to take that time to just take a minute, and even if it's 5 minutes, I just started doing meditation again because I was getting more like, oh, I don't have time. And I'm like, no, you need to make the time. Like, you do
Find
have
it.
the time.
Yeah.
You're self-sabotaging at this point. Like, find the time. I just did a 5-minute one the other day. That's all I was like, I don't have it. I'm like, I'm getting nervous about time. Just take 5 minutes and recognize the space around you and take a breath. And it's crazy because it does sound very woo-woo. So I love the name of your podcast. It does. It sounds very woo-woo, and it's like hippy dippy, and you sound nuts. It's like, no, but just
No.
try it. Just
Yeah.
try it.
Do you know what it is? So this is one of the things that the realizations that I had is, if I say to somebody, if I said to me a couple of years ago, just find time, just make it happen, I would be like, the analogy that I give is that it's like looking from a drone view. What do you mean? If I wanted to I need more time, I'm going to find more time. But how do I find more time? Why don't you tell me, right? And
Right.
so what helped me was looking at it from a mouse view, right? I can't think about next week. I can barely think about the rest of today. So how's about you just manage your mood in this moment?
Right.
You manage your mood in this moment. So what does that mean? So let me give you a teacher analogy. I meditate in the morning. I'm now taking public transportation because I'm still working on my anxiety with my car. So that's a whole nother episode. So I'm getting public transport in the morning, and I listen. So I meditate in the morning. In my time when I'm traveling, I put on a podcast, and then I get to work and I stop, and then I go. Why do I give that time? That time could be for me to ground myself. That's often what I do. Ground myself. And when I say ground myself, I mean take off the other hat that I'm wearing, stop, and put on my teacher hat now. So kind of get in my zone. And then these are all techniques that I use to manage my mood. Then I start my day. My day officially starts at 8:30. The students will come in. And previously, I could, like, one of my students would just burst in the room and be like, "Miss, so is it true that I've got a detention?" Da, 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 da. I was like, stop. Can we just stop? Good morning.
Here.
And can we just not? And previously, I'll be like reactive, and I'll be like, "What are you? Don't come in the room like this. This is not how we start our day. That's not." I'm just I'm just reflecting what she's doing, it was a female student. I'm just reflecting that energy. All that's going to happen is something else is going to piss me off. Am I allowed to say? Sorry. Something else is going to annoy me. Something else is going to, a teacher might come in. And this is a real example. I've had a teacher who's in her mid-50s. Somebody's upset her, management's upset her, and she's come into my room. And all I said was, "Are you okay?" The woman broke down, sobbing. This woman's been teaching for maybe 30 odd years. My energy has to go down because the empathy, the compassion. I don't want to see somebody who's such a good teacher and who's somebody who I really look up to be sobbing because another member of staff has made her cry. In that energy, it's a low vibration. So when I say
Yeah.
manage my mood, I don't mean necessarily angry. I mean sadness. I mean, the aggression. I mean the sense of rushing and urgency. Managing your mood is my mantra for what I use every day, and it's just, how am I feeling right now? And if I am I out of alignment? And if I am, this is the perfect moment for me to just get back in
Yeah.
line, get back, go back into the river.
And
Don't hang out here. Just go back.
I like that you like using the term like out of alignment. So like there's like and it's literally a gut check. Like, and
Yes.
I started like when I first started looking into like or learning about manifesting like 15 years ago.
Mm.
And yeah, oh gosh, like 15 or 16 years ago is when I first heard about it and
Mm.
started looking into it. And one of the big things that I learned all those years ago was that like your emotions and how you're feeling is a good indicator for your situation, and like,
Mm-hmm.
to know like, am I in alignment with doing this particular thing in this moment, or is this feeling bad? And I used to do that. I would do these gut checks and be like,
Mm.
okay, like how am I feeling right now in doing this? Everyone around me is being really
Mm.
loud and telling me how I need to feel here, but
Mm.
how do I feel here? And I would literally just take a minute and
Go
be like,
in.
does this feel good or does this feel bad?
I can't
Like,
unsee that beautiful queen who just walked into the room. She is
oh,
stunning. And I want to
Sasha.
just take a moment to say to her,
Thank
yes, girl, I love it. This is reality. The only reason why one of my three haven't knocked through the door right now is I said, look, I'm going into a really important meeting. We'll come down and we'll watch a movie. When I come down, we'll
These
watch
guys
a movie,
don't.
but you don't come upstairs. I'm literally the furthest corner up the house as there physically is possible. They would have to literally be running to they would come and find me, trust me, but it's so funny. And
These guys
you
have
know what?
no.
I
They're so
love
funny.
it.
Well, so the twins. So that was one of the
I,
twins. That was what she's the older twin. Um, I'm very like everything we're talking about. Like I'm teaching them now. So like when during the summer when they
yeah.
were home, like I would be like, oh, mommy's gonna meditate. Let's all meditate together. And I'm
Oh,
like,
I love
and it
it.
and I started doing it with them because I'm like, let me just like try, because they have anxieties. They're people, like
Yeah.
they need to know this, and I want them to be good communicators. I want them to know like what they're about and understand like how they will work, because me learning about all this when I was like starting 25, for
Mm.
25 years I didn't know about it, and I was always very like um very driven. Like I had really bad anxiety when I was in my early 20s, like just awful, and it was like a stop. It was like a wall, like running into a brick wall.
Mm.
And my response to that was to like dive right in to whatever the task is and just immerse myself, because I was like,
Oh,
I can't
wow.
continue to stop. So my ego kind of jumped in and was like, I got you, we've got this. And so for like years, for years, I operated like, you have to control this situation, control it, like do all the things, control everything,
Wow.
do everything and it saved me in the time that I needed it to save me. And it showed
Yes.
up for me when I needed it to save me, because I could have lost everything. And I
Mm.
didn't, because I was like, no, like let's fix this. But then because I was doing that for so long, I literally just during AEA stopped doing that and stopped trying to control everything. And I've like taken a very definitive like breath step back. And it's been incredibly hard for me, because
Yeah.
I spent the majority of my life trying to control everything. And like,
Mm.
and that's why like I like my work is, my daytime job is in client services. You can control everything and it's like a beautiful thing. That's why I'm so
Yeah.
successful at that, because I'm like that was like a thing. And
That's
even
your,
there
yeah.
I've taken very, very noticeable steps back to make
Good for
sure
you.
that like, Jenny, like you don't have to be like that. And that's actually, I want to say something too, like in relation to like being a teacher and like what you're talking about, like taking a minute and like, I think it's the same thing, is where you don't have to control everything. You just have to, you can only control yourself and what you're doing. And even in that, it's important to just take those bits, like 5 minutes a day, even if it's 5 minutes before you walk into the building, just like what you said, like just take a minute, take a breath. I do that quite a bit now, where in my regular day to day, like even when I'm trying to put the kids to bed and I'm like, go to bed, please go to bed. I'll like take a minute and just kind of stare at their face, because I'm like, this is the last time that your face is going to look like this, because you're going to be another day older tomorrow. And even, it's funny, mine at night are very much like,
beautiful. That is
I do. And they're always
beautiful.
like, why are you staring at me? And I'll literally just stare at their face.
Because that's your way to reconnect to, okay, so this is why. This is why. In the moment, comes back to manage your mood. You may be really frustrated. You might be tired. They might be bickering amongst themselves. Manage your mood. Look at look in their eyes. Look at the face, and it's like, oh, okay, so this is why. Now I can come from a different place.
Exactly. Well, and then I also keep in mind too, especially in relation to these guys, to my kids, but like they're the kind of kids at night that are like, I need 150 hugs from you before I can go to bed. And it's irritating, but at the same time, I will never be like, no, go to bed, because I feel like at some point when they're 16 or 17, they're going to be like, I don't need you to hug me. I'm going to like be devastated. So.
Yep, that's true. That's true.
Sasha,
I wanted to
go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was gonna say, you shared so much of yourself and like how you got to the place that you're at. So now what I was going to circle back to was like, you do have this podcast, the podcast launching. So the Woo Woo Teachers Club. And then you also do have an Instagram account, woo_teachers club. I'm going to link everything in the description, guys. So if you're listening, like you'll see all the links in the description as well. So you're taking your life experience and what you've gone through and the discovery of like how important like the meditation is and that practice and everything that you've learned through your life. And you're now flipping the script basically, and you're using it to help other teachers to say like, you don't have to do this way. There is a better path that you could be on.
Listen, we as teachers are struggling. I'm not talking for all teachers. I'm talking for the ones who I've seen, the ones who DM me, the ones who I see crying, the ones who have just started their teaching career, the ones who have been in teaching for 30, 40 years. We're struggling. Look at the statistics, look at the news, read an article. We are leaving the profession in drones because we cannot cope with the constant demands, with the... When was the last time you went to your teachers and said thank you? Not you specifically, the listeners. When was the last time that you went to your children's teachers and said thank you? I mean, I know it in America, they have, and some parts, I know in Jamaica, they have Teachers Appreciation Day or Teachers Week. We don't have it in the UK. It doesn't exist. So even on the times where and I do feel a little bit, when I see that my teacher colleagues in different countries, even on one day, are hearing thank you, we don't get that. The money, let's face it, we're not going to go into teachers to become extremely rich, because that just isn't going to happen.
Right.
Most teachers go into teaching because they want to make an impact. They want to serve. They want to make a difference in some way. They love their subject and they want more people to love it, whatever. And if we are feeling like we're not getting enough appreciation, and to caveat by saying appreciation doesn't necessarily mean money. It could just be one of your managers saying, I really appreciate that you took that time to spend to write that email out to that parent, or I acknowledge that you're struggling. Let's have a conversation. Or however that might look. Even the leadership team, the principals, the head teachers, I wouldn't enjoy doing a job like that. Why? Because the amount of pressure that they must get from the teachers, from the parents, from the students, the academics, the attainment, grades, the analysis, the government, the governors, there's just so many things that is on these people's shoulders, on our shoulders. And at some point, if we don't get job satisfaction or we don't get money to pay our bills, why should you have teachers who are having to go to food banks because they can't afford? Like, it's wild to me. Now,
That's
to become
horrible.
a good, it's horrible, and it's so demoralizing and so demotivating that you are literally trying as best as you can, and it's not enough. So two things will happen. They will either just try less and just go into survival mode. You don't want a teacher who is just not giving your students in what they want and just don't care
Right.
about grades anymore. They just don't care if your students meet their target grade. They can't care anymore.
Right. Because they're
Or
trying to
they
survive. Yeah.
trying to survive. I just need to survive, and this is what is going to pay my bills, and I'm just in survival mode. Or I'm leaving, because that's what I said. I said I'm going. The reasons behind it was different, but it was part of the story. I'm leaving my job today, and it's only out of respect that I'm coming to tell you. I didn't honestly want to leave, but I had nothing else. Right
Right.
now,
You were burnt out.
I was just finished, and I love my job. So let's imagine somebody who's feeling that way and don't love it to that
They don't
extent,
love it. Yeah.
and they don't love him, right? Your children are standing in front of somebody who just doesn't have what is necessary to be able to be an amazing teacher, because they don't want to, because they just can't anymore. They don't deserve that. These young people, they
No.
don't deserve that. They deserve somebody who's going to really try and who really wants the best for them. And we're all responsible for that. Yes, us as teachers, but equally parents, management, the community as a whole. We're all responsible for that, for the outcomes of our young children. Now, if you want to go and you want to learn about the curriculum, or learn about data, or learn about special needs, there's a program you can find on that. There's training you can go to. You can get, there's events that will be held to allow teachers to learn about whatever it is that makes them a better teacher. I have yet to find anybody advocating for the spiritual side of teachers.
Yeah.
Where teachers can come in and feel abundant, where teachers feel as though they are being, what they're doing is aligning to their life's purpose. They can feel connected to the job. And even when, we are being told that we're leaving work at 6:30, and even when comments like that are made, you have the capacity to be able to reflect, to deflect that. You have the capacity to say that, that's not a reflection on me. And I'm irritated in this moment. And instead of me going home and absorbing that, I'm going to take my 10 minutes and I'm going to meditate just to shift that energy and move that energy.
Yeah.
So I'm here, even in my very small way. So as I said, I only started this, one, because I needed this, but two, because there's going to be at least one other person who's going to look at things in this way. And we are going to
100%.
come together as a community, as a club, and we are going to say, look, there's a different way. Not to say that all the other ways of teacher training is irrelevant, because of course that's not. We want teachers to be able to give,
No, of course not.
to give teaching, to be able to allow your students to learn and come out with qualifications that's going to aid them in their future. But this is another way. This shouldn't be disregarded. And in the same way you said earlier that you wasn't taught this. Most people are not taught this, right? And it's such a tool. Most people are taught
Huge.
the logistical things, but this is an equally another tool that can all go into your back pocket, that will help you show up, that will help you become a magnet to all the abundance that there is in life. And there is. You just have to be able to have the bandwidth to be able to receive it. And so it's really important to me to advocate for the students, because this is ultimately going to be for the students' benefits as well. If you have a teacher in front of you who is so excited and so, honored to be in front of you, and who's going to discipline you and going to set boundaries, but it's going to come from a place of love rather than come from a place of, you are annoying me right now and I just need you out of my space. That, that's the reality, guys. That's the reality. And so my mission is to uplift teachers with the power of mindset and manifestation. Mindset being, what can I do myself? How can I help myself and shift my mindset that things are not happening to me? That teacher wasn't being nasty specifically to me to go and yield some response. I mean, I don't know, but I can't imagine that. They're coming from a place where they've got their own stuff dealing with, What can I do to support my mindset today and to just to manage my mood. That was all I was able to do at first, was to manage my mood, very small steps, and then was able to get through today, then get through this week, and actually feel excited that I'm coming into school on
Yeah.
Monday, rather than the gut-wrenching dread on
Like,
Sunday.
oh, I got to show up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Around 3 p.m., roughly 4 p.m. on a Sunday evening would be a cloud of dread that came over my household, and it would be like, oh, I've got work tomorrow. I don't want to go.
Yeah, the Sunday scaries. One of my other
Sunday
guests called it the
scaries.
Sunday scaries. Yeah.
Or we call it, or I call it Sunday night blues. Like, literally, you could be living your best night on the weekend, and then that roughly 3 p.m. 3 p.m.
Yeah, and about like
you'd get the blues.
Yeah, you're right. At 3 o'clock it starts for me too.
It's just right, and so we don't have to exist from a life like that. That shouldn't be your normal. That shouldn't be a default setting. And there is so much more to life. Yeah, and ultimately, teaching is just a job. It's your career, but it doesn't have to be something that you dread. And this, I'm talking to teachers, but this is relevant for somebody who is a leader, is in leadership, somebody who works at McDonald's. This is somebody who owns their own business. You shouldn't be feeling this way. It's just, you just don't have to. There is another alternative, and for me, it's woo-woo. It's spirituality. It's connecting to yourself more than anything. It's going within, being able. Some people will say, so I've heard it said that prayer is when you speak to God, or you could say universe, source, whatever. But meditating is giving you the capacity to listen and to hear. And in those 10, 15 minutes, that was where I was able to get the most downloads. I know this is where I got the idea of a podcast, in that gap, those 15-minute gaps.
That's huge.
What?
That's huge.
That's
that it
amazing.
In that moment. It's amazing. And everything that you're saying is, well, first of all, it's amazing that you're focusing this in on teachers, like such an important profession. And you're right. Like they're not paid enough. They often use their own money for things for the kids. Like I donate to my classrooms every year because I'm like, let me give you all the things. Again, you're with my kids more than I am Monday through Friday. Like, let me give you all the things. But this is so impactful. It's so powerful. And you started when you opened, you said like, even if I only help like 1 or 2 people. And I had the same, when I was starting my podcast, I had the same thought, is that like, our mission was to help women basically, and to raise awareness and elevate the conversation around like the stressors that women endure on a regular basis that nobody talks about. And you're taking it a step further, and you're focusing in on teachers. And this is, again, like, it's so important. And it's something that's very simple to integrate in. And even if you're like, and I do challenge everybody who's listening here, even if you're hearing this and you're like, this is BS, or this is nonsense, just try it, is what I'll say. Just try it, because even if it's 5 minutes, and you can look up meditations on YouTube. Kathy Heller has like a meditation monthly subscription that you can grab, which I strong recommend. I use her meditations, her guided meditations, every single time I meditate. Just try it. And, reach out to Sasha via her Instagram account. It's woo_teachers club. She's going to be launching her podcast. You'll be able to access her through there. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of amazing activities coming out from the Woo Teachers Club. And you'll just be able to elevate yourself in so many ways.
Do you know what? You said it so perfectly. Some people are going to be like, "This is such BS." Like, I don't want I don't want my children's teachers talking about meditation. I don't want them talking about all of this stuff. I want you to be a good teacher, and I just want you to teach my children. You don't have to. This is all about what you believing, and I respect if you really do think this is BS. That's down to you, and I respect that. But this is just another tool. This is just something that is as well as, not instead of. You do want your teachers to be qualified and to be able to teach them, but you should also value their mental well-being, their mindset, their connection to their job. And what the alternative is, that we continue as we are. We continue with teachers who are burnt out, who are by the day caring less and less, who are by the day leaving the profession with less people entering it. And what would you prefer? A teacher who stands in front of your children and they are smiling, that they are abundant, that they are coming from a place of deep love for their job and therefore deep love for the children, your children who are sitting in front of them. And that even on the times where it's stressful, and even on the times where you're told to F off by a student, because that's happened, even
I'm
in
sure.
those times where you are facing such, things that you don't really want to face because of your job, or not, because again, teachers have lives and they may be going through a divorce, or they may be feeling really, really ill right now, or they may have just come back from maternity leave and have maybe been surviving on maybe 2 hours and 33 minutes of sleep, and they're really tired, and yet still they come in front of your children. This is just another tool that we can advocate for one another, and in a place where it's united in oneness, united in love, united in I feel you and I really want the best for you. And if you are choosing to teach from this centered place, why am I going to deny you of that? And to you as a teacher, if you're listening to this and you are teachers, or you have a teacher friend, or you know somebody who's a teacher, thank you for the job you do. You are seen, you are appreciated, you are valued. And even if you don't get that from external sources, just know it from an internal place that you are making a difference. And even if 5 children in your class are giving you problems, or you may be getting problems from your line manager, or a parent keeps being annoying and shouting at you, you are making a difference to at least one child. And because of you, that child's coming into school. They may be smiling. They may be having a hot meal for the first time in the day. You are making an impact to the children. And it's so important that you know that you are valued and you are appreciated. And even if you may have not told it, I'm telling you today, I really do appreciate you. I value you and thank you for your service.
Sasha, you closed that out so nicely that I actually don't even have anything to add, and I'm speechless. And that is the first time this is like the 24th podcast episode that I've recorded, and that is the first time that I'm like, you said that so nicely. Thank you for that, because you're actually my third teacher, now that I realize it, that I've interviewed for the podcast. You're my third
Amazing.
one. So the other guests will be interested in hearing this too. You're my third one, and that was so nice. Thank you so much for being on with me, and also for enduring my kids coming in and out of the recording. I greatly appreciate it.
Oh my gosh. So I am a mother and I work with children every day. I love children. Remember, children are doing what they are meant to do, They are meant to be exploring. They don't see their mum right now. I need to see what mum's doing, because she's been away for a long time. She's doing something fun. I want to be involved. Right?
They want to be in it. They love being on camera.
Right? Even your teenagers who are being really moody and they're trying to find themselves. They're trying to push their boundaries. They're maybe even scared. Could you imagine growing up in a world right now where you've got social media just literally crushing you at all turns, whether you are a male, whether you are a female,
terrifying.
Whether you are questioning your sexual identity, whether you really want to be somebody who does knitting and everybody else is playing football. Oh my gosh, these children, they are doing what they really are here to do, and they are trying to navigate a world that none of us who are listening ever had to navigate. They're doing it for the first time. So when we were teenagers, we didn't have to think about doing Snapchats, buying the latest new iPhone. That just wasn't what? So let's appreciate that they're going through something that we wouldn't necessarily understand. And so, yes, we do need boundaries. Yes, we do need to, to have discipline in whatever way that means to you. But we do need to allow them some grace and some space to talk to you, to go off and have their storm off, and then give them the space to kind of realize, I probably was being silly there. Yeah, maybe I need to apologize, or however that looks. It's really important that we acknowledge that they are doing exactly what they're meant to be doing for that life stage. You was not perfect. The hell wasn't perfect. And so let's just, with our mind, show some empathy to these young people who are trying to navigate this very complicated, scary, overwhelming world.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, again, oh my gosh, you must be
Oh my God,
fabulous in the
who am I?
podcast.
Who is
What
this
is going
person who
on?
you're?
Thanks a lot.
Oh God, I love it.
Sasha,
I love it
thank
here. Thank you for having
yeah, this has
me.
been it's been so nice having you on. I can't wait for your launch. I'm excited to see how this grows for you. I want you to
Oh,
just tell
thank
me all the
you.
things that I'm going to follow you and make sure that I'm in touch because I
Thank
want to see all this.
you.
Thank you everybody who logged in to listen and is with me weekly. I greatly appreciate it. I'm so happy and honored that you think that this is informative and that you feel the same way that we do in terms of like just kind of getting this information. It's just, it's truly an honor that anybody is listening and, you know, saying like, I think what you're saying is important. To me, this is such a huge honor. So thank you for joining me today, Sasha. And for everyone listening, check out Sasha's podcast, Woo Woo Teachers Club. It is going to be launching on October 4th. And then follow her on Instagram, woo-woo_teachers club. And thank you so much for joining me this
Jenny,
morning.
you've been awesome. Thank you for having me. Thank you guys for listening to this humble London teacher who is just coming with a little message. Thank you so much. And I'm truly grateful to be here and for me to just share my story. Thank you. And I'm just sending so much love and good vibes out over the internet, the podcast world. I just want to send out so much love.
Thank you all. Until next time.